Chapter 5. Forging Bonds in the Iron Kingdom of Dwargon. After naming the goblins, they evolved into hobgoblins, and the direwolves into tempest wolves, at least initially. Ranga evolved into a star wolf, which looked as cool as it sounded. I wanted to tackle the village's problems one by one, but for the time being, I called another conference just outside the premises. Everyone here? All right, I've got rules for you. 3 rules, to be exact. Do your best to follow these rules. Yes, they gladly replied, full of energy. I have 3 rules, I continued, setting the tone. The rules that I stated publicly were 1. Do not fight among yourselves. 2. Do not belittle other species. 3. Do not attack humans unless absolutely necessary. I needed to emphasize these points to prevent any unfortunate casualties. More laws would come once the city was officially founded, but for now, these 3 basics would serve us well, just like before. Could I ask a question? Rigger shouted. Why are we not allowed to attack humans? Rigger gave his son a stern look, probably fearing he was crossing a line. But I signaled to him that it was fine. Rules need explanations, after all. Rules without explanations are just tyranny in disguise. Human beings live in large groups. If you provoke them, they can retaliate in force. And if they do, I doubt we'll be able to defend ourselves. That's why I prohibit interfering with them. Befriending them will be more beneficial than making them enemies. But humans are like monsters. There are good ones we can befriend, and at the same time, there are evil ones we need to fight. Let's be careful about picking our human enemies. So don't fight when it's unnecessary, and only fight them when they are hostile first. I explained thoroughly, making sure every part of my reasoning was clear. As I spoke, they all appeared convinced. Ranga let out a deep, affirmative growl, definitely more convinced than before. Is there anything else? Here, Gobta raised his hand like an eager student in class. Yep, this turned into a full-on classroom Q&A session. Yes, Gobta-kun, I allowed him to speak. What do you mean by, do not look down upon other species? Well, all of you just acquired new abilities because of the evolution, right? I'm saying don't let that confidence affect you too much. I don't want you belittling weaker species just because you're a bit sturdier now. Sooner or later, your rivals will get just as strong, or even surpass you, and after mocking them, they might come knocking on your doors and obliterate you. That wouldn't be pleasant, right? There were no signs of uncertainty on their faces. It seemed my speech landed well. Thank you, inner charisma boost. That's pretty much it. Stick to the rules as much as you can, all right? Yes! With the fundamentals in place, it was time to assign roles. There was still no major battlefield, so for now, our only enemy was the battle against nature itself. Every living being needs food to survive, and at this rate, famine will be our downfall. Rigurd, I hereby appoint you as Goblin Lord. It will be your job to govern this village. He looked thrilled, though in reality, I had just placed a very heavy burden on his shoulders. Oops. Why yes, great Rimuru. I promise you that I, Rigurd, will devote myself body and soul to fulfill this position. Yep. Tears of joy again. That's my Rigurd. Very well. It's in your hands now, I said, giving him a reassuring tap on the shoulder. With Rigurd now in charge, the village should run a bit smoother. We had at least 90 goblin direwolf pairs, but with our population pushing 600, we'd need to venture deeper into the forest for food. After several goblin settlements migrated to our village, our population had swelled to 600. To minimize casualties, I made sure the goblins paired with tempest wolves were stationed in the most remote areas. The ones without partners would scout closer to home. I divided the population into 3 groups. Since Rigger and Gobta were 2 of the most talented warriors, I assigned them to the farthest patrols, areas they were already familiar with, along with our top goblin fighters. Their job was to guard the second team, which was in charge of gathering the forest's bounty, our current primary food source. With everyone named and leveled up, productivity had increased tenfold, which also greatly improved the village's overall security. The forest was still dangerous, but our round-the-clock watchers and guards made sure our home remained safe. We didn't have agriculture yet, we were working on that, but for now, we relied solely on the forest's offerings. Even with our best fighters protecting the second team, the village was secure. At least 20 goblins were always stationed at the fences around the gate and near the clock towers. Right now, our main priority was solving the food crisis. So, I dedicated as much manpower as possible to the second team, aka the food team. And to my surprise, they delivered. They brought back a mountain of food, enough to feed 500 individuals for at least 3 days. Honestly, I was impressed. Haruna, who had become quite beautiful after evolving, entered my tent. She was in charge of the food department. As I inspected the stockpile, Haruna suddenly dropped a surprising statement. With this much supply, we can survive for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Hey, I know this food is excessive, but I think it'll only last 2 to 3 days with 600 monsters. No, Great Rimuru. I'm sure this food will last for 2 weeks. But we have 600 monsters eating 3 times a day, I countered. Haruna muttered something under her breath. 3 times a day? That genuinely confused me. Oh. Why? I don't know about the other goblin villages, but we usually eat only once a day. It's considered a feast when we manage to eat twice. She said this with a happy expression on her face. Idiot. That's not something to be proud of. What? That's unacceptable. I have an additional rule. In this village, we will be eating 3 times a day. That's the least amount of food we demand for a day. There will be no objections. Yes. As you wish, Lord Rimuru. Haruna agreed without hesitation. Well, that settled our food issue. Our little village would now adapt to the norm of eating 3 full meals a day. Thankfully, the Great Jura Forest had been under Veldora's protection for centuries, untouched and bountiful, just waiting for us to harvest it. Everything was going great, but not everything always goes your way. Not that I didn't know that already. Now, that brings us to the third team, the building and clothing team. Thanks to naming, many goblins had become smarter. But they still lacked the knowledge to build proper structures or craft quality clothing. I didn't really care where I stayed since I didn't require sleep. But the building team insisted on constructing a nest for me. Was it even a building, though? I gazed at the structure they attempted to create. Could I even call that a building? It looked like a drunk bird tried to build a nest during an earthquake. Well, let's focus on the word attempted. I figured they might get stressed if I simply ordered them to get good at engineering, and they failed, even while trying their best. I had planned to take a few breaks, especially since I had reduced my travel time lately. But I guess there was no choice. I decided to head to the Dwarf Kingdom, Dwargon. Before departing, I informed Rigard in advance. Predictably, he cried. He was the type of aide who acted like a needy girlfriend. You know the type. Super loyal, very dramatic, cries at everything. Yeah. As he had proudly proclaimed the day before, Rigard had arranged everything I might need for the expedition to the Kingdom of Dwargon. Rimuru-sama, Rigard said. Then let my son escort you to Dwargon. Then I replied bluntly, no. I will only take one person with me. Gobta. You will come with me, I said. I need someone who doesn't attract attention. He had a completely shocked expression. Why me? Gobta said, like he'd just been handed a death sentence. A few minutes later, we left the village and began our journey to Dwargon. Gobta insisted on packing my luggage, but I instantly rejected the idea. With my hidden abilities, I didn't see the need for such things. I could secretly create currency within my imaginary space, so I didn't require any external funds. If we had spare resources, I believed we should prioritize the village, not spend it all on me. I didn't need food, and I could materialize clothing with magic, so yeah, zero need for luggage. The only one carrying stuff was Gobta. That alone would save us resources and time. When you have the ability to travel light, you should. I nestled comfortably on top of Ranga, bouncing slightly in his warm, fluffy fur. Like having a furry sports car, with a heartbeat. For a goblin on foot, it would take around 2 months to walk to the Kingdom of Dwargon. The path we chose? A treacherous mountain route. However, since we had Ranga with us, our journey went smoothly, even while taking the most dangerous path. All thanks to Ranga, the journey was peaceful, and we made a few stops to rest along the way. Not that I needed to, but Gobta is, well, Gobta. Still, there was something I needed to clear up. Now, about Ranga. I should really make sure he doesn't hold a grudge against me. Again, not that I think he does, but better safe than sorry. Ranga, I called to him. I'm kind of the guy who killed your father. I was wondering, do you harbor any lingering grudge toward me? I asked him directly. I do have thoughts about it, master. But to a monster, the defeated will be killed, and the victor will live. No matter how I comprehend it, Master has the ability to kill the entire pack all by himself. By forgiving the rest of us and giving us the name, Ranga, I am filled with thankfulness, not resentment. We would have been lost to the winds of time. Our loyalty and devotion belong to our one true master alone. Ranga said it all affectionately, then leaned in, signaling me to pet him. So I did, thanking him in the process. Well, I am thankful as well, I said to Ranga. With that heartfelt moment behind us, we continued our journey. 2 weeks later, we arrived at the entrance to Dwargon. Ranga, you can rest in my shadow now, I said. Yes, please call us anytime, he replied, wagging his tail happily before slipping into my shadow like the good boy he is. Now then, how would King Gazel treat me in this timeline? The armed nation of Dwargon possesses astonishing military might. It is a kingdom undefeated for a full millennium. Its military corps excel in defense, power, and magical technologies. The wall of infantry force is massive, and any red-handed criminal will be turned to dust. It is said that their technological prowess exceeds any human country, and it is one of the 3 states capable of standing up to the Western Council on its own. And lastly, Dwargon's renowned hero King, Gazel Dwargo, the third of his name. A brilliant, cunning leader who has guided Dwargon through countless victories in recent years. I was finally on the road to Dwargon, the underground kingdom of the dwarves, famous for its crafts, its beer, and, unfortunately, its tendency to throw travelers like me in jail. Again. Meanwhile, Gobta cheerfully hummed something that sounded suspiciously like a drinking song, despite not having had a single drop of alcohol in his life. Where does this guy even get these ideas? Are we almost there? Gobta asked for the 10th time today. I sighed. We've been walking for 3 hours, Gobta. You asked that same question 20 minutes ago. The answer hasn't changed, but the mountain looks bigger now. I swear, sometimes I wonder if naming him made him dumber. Correction. His intelligence remains unchanged. This level of behavior is natural for Gobta. Thanks, Seal. That makes me feel so much better. We reached the gates by late afternoon. The grand stone archway into Dwargon was carved directly into the mountain, majestic, towering, and guarded by dwarf soldiers in heavy armor with even heavier suspicion in their eyes. I threw on my black cloak and tucked my hair beneath the hood. No need to stand out more than I already did. The guards gave Gobta a particularly long stare. Honestly, who could blame them? Here's what happened after lining up at the entrance of Dwargon. 1. Some old dudes accosted me. 2. I got pissed off, just a little. 3. I kinda beat them. Just a little. Not my fault, right? That's what I told myself, while glancing at the soldier who arrested me. He had a majestic, long, bushy beard befitting a dwarf and a wide, friendly smile. If I could say something hindering his attractiveness, it was the unfortunate veins popping from his forehead like stressed-out spaghetti. Now let's see what you have to say for yourself. My superior was scolding me because of you. I got solicited. What could I do? I reasoned. The classic blame everyone else technique. Not my proudest, but hey, it works sometimes. The soldier I was referring to was Kaijin's younger brother, Kaidu. In the previous timeline, he married an elf girl. Lucky bastard. He was somewhat powerful in Dwargon. With his abilities alone, he had risen through the ranks of the military in the most fortified nation on the continent. According to Seal, Kaidu immediately rushed to the scene after detecting the commotion. I tried explaining everything to him, but he just couldn't believe my story. It turned into a long debate, lots of back and forth. Well, we were doing our best to plead our innocence. Slam. Yes, sir. A T-Rex appeared in the mines. Ooh, what? Did you defeat it? We're already on it. A suppression force is moving in, but some of us are seriously injured. Seeing the urgency in their eyes, I decided to help. Here, I exclaimed, tossing a glass vial filled with a healing potion. How did you get out of your cell? Kaidu barked, clearly annoyed. Ooh, what is this? Kaidu asked, catching the vial. It's a potion of healing. Without even checking the item, Kaidu tried to rush out, but his underlings blocked him. Captain, are you sure you can trust a monster? Seriously, guys? Again with the monster thing? I spoke again, this time more firmly. That doesn't matter right now. Just rub it on the wounds or drink it, either method works. But Captain, that is a monster, one of them still insisted. Enough, just shut up and take me to the injured. Kaidu clearly understood the situation. He wasn't going to let pride get in the way of saving his people. Before leaving, he looked back at me and said, "And you, Majin. Stay here. I owe you one." "I am grateful." Kaido turned and dashed away, his back to me, leaving only his integrity and that surprisingly touching gratitude behind. Yeah, I was genuinely impressed. He had a good heart. But now, the guard who had been interrogating me was gone. So, what should I do now? I returned to my prison cell and found Gobta snoring. He was actually sleeping through all of this. With nothing better to do, I figured I'd kill some time. So I turned my attention inward, into my imaginary space. I swear, it was like flipping channels on some bizarre fantasy TV. Inside my imaginary space castle rooms. 1. Chapter 6. A glimpse of flame after spending one uncomfortable night in a prison cell. Not exactly the luxury I had in mind. My new day began with a surprise visit. Kaido had brought someone along. Or rather, someone's. It was the Garm brothers, just like last time. Garm, Dord, and Murd. The legendary craftsman trio. They came all the way here to say thanks. "Thank you, sir. Thanks a ton. Man, those potions are effective. I thought I wouldn't be able to work anymore. My whole arm was completely torn. Thank you. Still not going to talk, huh? Well, whatever. I'm pretty sure that third one was thankful too. His smile counts, I guess." After the Garm brothers left, Kaido and I got to chatting again, but I cut right to the chase this time. I told him I was building a village and that I needed engineers and craftsmen to teach my people how to build properly. "I know someone who you're just looking for." "Yeah, I know who you're going to say, man. I know, but I can't release you guys without my superior's orders," he added. Just as he said that, a messenger showed up. Talk about plot timing. According to the report, further investigation confirmed I really wasn't at fault. The incident was caused by some rogue adventurers from Dwargan's Free Guild. Apparently, the dwarves had a proper system for figuring out the truth. Respect. When Kaido read the letter, he didn't waste a second. "I am embarrassed and ashamed to have kept you in those cells. As thanks and compensation, I will escort you myself to an amazing craftsman I know," he said proudly. As expected of Kaido, the beard may be fluffy, but the heart is solid. I was now accompanied by Kaido on our way to meet a legendary swordsmith. And during our stroll, we had ourselves a little trade-off. "But Mr. Rimuru," he asked, squinting with curiosity, "how did you obtain those potent healing potions?" "It's a secret, but I can sell some to you." "They're expensive though," I smirked. He scratched his beard. Then, "How about 5 gold pieces per potion?" "I don't know if that's enough, but I'd like to buy 5 potions." "Fufu tilde that's not enough," I grinned. "But we can make this work." He gave me a puzzled look, but I continued anyway. "How about this? 5 gold each, but you must agree to buy 10 potions." "Wait, I'm feeling gracious today. Let's make it 11 for 50 gold pieces." His face froze as he tried to do the mental math. The temptation got to him. And after a brief struggle with his wallet's willpower, he gave in. Victory. You may be a good man, Kaido, but when it comes to negotiation, business is business. Not only did I earn a bunch of gold, but I even leveled up my merchant instincts. Time to enjoy myself freely in the paradise. Deception skills were not improved. Not even the slightest. Thanks for the reality check, Seal-sensei. Very encouraging. Anyway, I can't help being optimistic. Let's go, elves. Seal. Pervert. Did you say something? Seal. It's just your imagination. Reite. Let's find Kaijin and party until we pass out. Don't worry, Kaido. Your 3 months' worth of wages are well spent. Try presenting some of these potions to King Gazel, and you'll probably get promoted in no time, I added with a confident nod. He didn't look as convinced, but I was very happy. After walking for a while, Kaido and I finally reached our destination, Kaijin's workshop. A simple stone building, slightly worn from years of heat, sweat, and hammer strikes, but it radiated that same pride you only find in a master craftsman's place. We knocked 3 times. No answer. So, like any polite guest with zero patience, we barged in. "Sorry for the intrusion," I called out. As we entered, we were greeted not with words, but with the rhythmic pounding of metal. Kaijin was deep in his work, hammering away at a glowing red sword, his muscles tense, his shirt half drenched in sweat. He didn't even glance our way. Clearly, he was in full workaholic mode. Due to recent movements by the Eastern Empire, Dwargon couldn't afford to slack off. In preparation for potential war, or maybe just to show strength, Kaijin was forced to churn out weapons non-stop. Why do I have to be so busy? Kaijin muttered, sparks flying with every hammer strike. Even for a top-tier blacksmith like him, this wasn't sustainable. Craftsmanship takes passion, time, care, but mass production? That demands speed and volume, and it eats away at both body and soul. Mistakes start creeping in, quality suffers, and for artisans like Kaijin, the emotional weight behind their work matters more than anything. And right now, Kaijin was barely holding together. Hey, Seal, Kaijin's health is failing. To be precise, the cause of his current condition is extreme exhaustion. TCH, just what I feared. This wasn't the Kaijin I remembered. He looked worn down, like a sword too often used and never resharpened. While I processed the scene, the Garm brothers stepped into the workshop behind me. Their timing couldn't have been better. The moment Kaijin noticed them, his tired eyes narrowed, blinking in disbelief. Wah! He finally stopped hammering, barely managing to steady himself. What do you want? He asked, his voice raspy, shoulders slumped. But then, he spotted the brothers more clearly, reading their faces. Oh, you know these guys? Garm stepped forward, serious as ever. That's him. The man who saved our lives. Dord gave a nod, quietly echoing, it was him who saved us. 14 years, and Dord still barely talks. I swear he's conserving word count like it's a limited skill. Kaijin blinked, clearly stunned by their presence, and their gratitude. After a long silence, Kaijin filled us in on the situation. The Eastern Empire's military pressure had stirred the political pot, and Dwargon was now on high alert. That meant one thing for the craftsmen: endless orders. Mass production, burnout, and Kaijin, being one of the best, was carrying more than his fair share of the weight. The fire in his forge wasn't the only thing burning. Kaijin finally sat down to explain his hellish situation. First, there was the shortage of magisteel, an essential component for any magical weapon worth swinging. And second, the ever-present shadow known as Minister Vesta. That minister is a tyrant. Kaijin snapped, the veins on his temple twitching with rage. Requesting something on this scale on such short notice. I think I won't make it on time. He was practically steaming like his forge, fists clenched tight. That name alone seemed to trigger trauma. Can't blame him. Minister Vesta was a bureaucratic black hole in both timelines. Realizing he just unloaded a tirade in front of me, a client, Kaijin coughed awkwardly and tried to shift gears. Oh, I mustn't talk like this in front of the clients. So, what brings you here today? He asked, a forced smile glued to his face. Kaido stepped forward on my behalf, sounding quite proud. Brother, Mr. Rimuru is assembling a community. He asked if there are any craftsmen who could teach them engineering and various crafts on site. Kaijin rubbed his beard thoughtfully. I understand the request, but... He let out a weary sigh. I can't just leave without finishing this project. If I rush it, there's a high chance I might fail. He was being reasonable, which meant I had to be unreasonable. Then, Mister, do you mind? I said with a cheerful grin. Kaijin blinked. Mind what? Foo. Is this the sword that Dwargon needs? I asked, casually pointing at the glowing blade he'd just finished hammering. Yes, Kaijin replied, confused but cautious. Without warning, chomp, I ate the sword, right in front of him. Kaijin froze, jaw slack, pupils shrinking. Honestly, if I'd pulled out a trumpet and started juggling fireballs, he might have reacted less dramatically. Before he could yell, scream, or throw his hammer at me in a blacksmithing rage, I opened my hand and, spat clang. One after another, 20 identical swords hit the workshop floor with a satisfying clang. The man looked like he'd just witnessed a divine miracle. I won't force you to come, I said coolly, but please, consider it. Now that I'd handed him a solution on a silver platter, or rather, a magisteel platter, it was time to strike while the sword was hot. Kaijin stood speechless, surrounded by blades that rivaled anything he could forge manually. 20 magisteel swords? He gasped, still trying to convince himself this wasn't some illusion. But wait, there's more. Oi, take a closer look, I said, smirking. I've been quite generous here. Kaijin stumbled toward one of the swords like a man in a trance. He crouched beside it, inspecting the blade's curve, weight, and finish. Then his eyes narrowed, drawn to the faint, magical glow that shimmered across the metal's surface. This glow, he whispered. A moment later, realization hit him like a hammer to the head. This isn't just a sword made from any magisteel. This is made from the purest magi core, a magicluster. His voice rang out, loud and awestruck. Yup, hook, line, and blacksmith. What he didn't know was that this wasn't just magisteel with some extra polish. It was something new, something Seal and I had been secretly experimenting on, an alloy made from fusing magisteel with vibranium. The result? Nexarite, a rare, radiant metal surpassing even mithril and orichalcum in mana resonance, density, and durability. A blade forged from Nexarite wasn't just tough, it could channel and amplify magic like a conductor, making it ideal for magic swords, royal armaments, or legendary class gear. Kaijin, however, was too awestruck to process the full implications just yet. But that was fine. I could work with this level of speechless admiration. I couldn't help but grin. Foo, not convinced of my proposal yet? I was practically glowing with pride. This was one hell of a feat. It's surplus, but I doubt the folks in Dwargon will complain, right? Foo. Kaijin looked at me with a mix of awe and curiosity, trying to wrap his head around the spectacle I had just performed. But, Sir Rimuru, how did you manage to acquire those precious materials? They're incredibly rare. Magisteel is already scarce here in Dwargon, yet you produce 20 of the purest magisteel swords. I chuckled softly, completely aware of how ridiculous this must have looked to him. Honestly, I'm just rich, I replied nonchalantly. Inside my mind, Seal chimed in, you have the ability to create anything. This is nothing. Well, thank you for the humble reminder, Seal-san. Joking aside, I answered Kaijin honestly, while also setting a little bait. You'll find that out once you help us. So please, give it some thought. But sir, is that all? These swords you've presented us with, they're incredibly valuable. Are you saying you're giving them to us for free? Well, technically, yes. They weren't expensive for me, it was all made using my magicules. I didn't spend a single resource. Still, Kaijin and Kaido didn't seem like the type to shamelessly accept such valuable items without giving anything in return. Which worked out, because I had a special proposal. I signaled Kaijin to come closer, then leaned in and whispered slyly into his ear, if you really feel that bad, then treat me to a paradise. Kaijin burst into laughter, his deep, hearty voice echoing through the workshop. Ha, of course, that's nothing. Very well, we shall join you. As payment for your help, I'll treat Sir Rimuru, and you'll be the guest of honor at the party too. When Kaijin said that with a proud grin, I returned it with one of my own. But when we both glanced at Kaido, it was obvious he had no intention of joining. Kaijin sighed in mild frustration. Poor guy, his brother was just too serious, the kind who'd never show up to a mixer his entire life. I felt a little bad for him. But hey, no changing his mind now. So with that settled, I, Kaijin, and the Garm brothers were ready to have ourselves a damn good time. And so, the day after, I, Kaijin, and the Garm brothers headed out late into the night. The name of the store? Butterflies of the Night. As we walked inside, welcome Tilda. The elves Oni-sans greeted us sweetly. Fantastic. Elves. Everywhere. We didn't even hesitate. We marched straight in and let our hearts guide our actions. The night had only just begun. Master, don't you dare even think about touching those women? Ciel's voice rang out in my head, her tone sharp and unmistakably laced with warning. Pin. Busted. Oh, come on, Ciel. Just let me enjoy this, all right? I whispered back mentally, slightly flustered at her overly protective attitude. HMPH. If you do, you'd better make it up to me later, or else. All right, ma'am, you have my word. Love ya, I said quickly, hoping a little affection would soften her mood. After a while, I found myself at the bar, savoring a drink as the night buzzed around us. Ha. I did not expect Sir Rimuru to produce those weapons in seconds, Kaijin said, taking a massive swig straight from a barrel like a true dwarf. I've considered your offer, but I don't understand. Why do you need us when you can create something like that in a flash? Well, I am a craftsman myself. I know those mass-produced ones aren't anywhere near the quality of a real craftsman's work, I replied with a casual shrug. Kaijin's eyes widened slightly in understanding. I see now. It seems Sir Rimuru has the passion of a true craftsman as well, he said, raising his drink in approval before taking another hearty chug. I might be a little vexed about what you did earlier, but now that I know Sir Rimuru has an interest in the art of crafting, it motivates me. Someday, I'll produce swords so refined, even you wouldn't be able to recreate them with your magic. A bold declaration. A challenge. He was fired up. I grinned. Oh, it's on. I won't lose, I declared, matching his competitive energy. Me too, Kaijin replied proudly, his eyes gleaming with the pride and resolve of a true artisan. Just then, an elf lady approached me. She was beautiful. No, stunning. Every movement was refined, and her enchanting smile made it hard to look away. Mr. Rimuru, she said in a gentle, mysterious voice, would you like to see your destined one? With a graceful flick of her hand, she chanted a soft incantation. A small crystal orb glowed with a warm light in front of me. Within the glowing sphere, I saw her, Shizu-san, and the children. My breath caught in my throat as the images shimmered faintly, like memories I hadn't yet made. I stared at the sphere, curiosity mixed with emotion. I had already figured it out, but Kaijin was the one caught off guard. Oh, don't tell me, Conqueror of Flames, he stuttered in shock. The elf woman beside him leaned in, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. The champion of the Free Association? Yeah, she's one hell of a beauty, Kaijin continued, nodding, but that lady's been active for several decades now. Her name is Shiz. Oh, that's right. Shizu Izawa. A chill ran down my spine as I felt the blonde elf clinging to me suddenly glare daggers at my face, her forehead practically a volcano of popping veins. Does Mr. care for this faded one? She asked, voice sweet but deadly sharp. That's not fair. No cheating. Another elf Oni-san jumped in, poking me with an accusatory pout. What followed was a blur of laughter, banter, and more booze than anyone should logically consume. We drank, we laughed, and we let the night carry us, until Minister Vesta walked in. So this is what you call a respectable establishment? Letting monsters pollute it with their filth, he sneered. The room tensed. I beg your pardon, but this Majin is a true gentleman, Mama-san, the elegant and composed manager, said gently. She tried to diffuse the tension before it could spiral. After all, Vesta wasn't just some bureaucrat, he was powerful. Influential. Dangerous. She tread carefully with every word, but Vesta? He wasn't listening. His mouth was spewing pure monster-kind discrimination, the kind that made you wonder if his parents raised him on poison. Even if I filed a complaint, let's face it, Dwargan's legal system isn't kind to outsiders, much less monsters. With the right strings, anyone could dance over justice. Vesta's tone escalated. So you're saying this thing isn't a monster just because he behaves like a gentleman? What idiocy, he barked, stepping closer to me. I felt a strange sensation in that moment. It wasn't anger. No, not yet. It was like watching a bad joke play out. Then, out of nowhere, he grabbed the drink from Mama-san's tray and dumped it on me. Right onto my perfectly constructed human form. My nice shirt. The audacity. The elves around me screamed in protest. No, sir, are you all right? The elves Oni-sans rushed over, their concern genuine. But me? I just sighed. It's fine. It doesn't actually matter, I said calmly, brushing the drink off like it was dust. Vesta's disrespect was loud, but not dangerous. What mattered more was Kaijin. Because his expression? That was rage. Without hesitation, Kaijin stepped forward and landed a full-force punch right into Vesta's face. Vesta, I hope you're ready to pay for treating my guest like that, he barked, fists clenched, his voice seething. The Garm brothers jumped in to restrain him. Easy, Kaijin, Dord said, trying to pull him back. Don't do anything rash, added Garm. But Vesta, still reeling from the blow, wasn't done. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know who I am? He shouted, blood trickling from his nose, pride even more bruised than his face. Okay, yeah, punching a high-ranking minister wasn't exactly a genius move, but I wasn't going to stop it either. Sir Rimuru, Kaijin said, turning to me with wild eyes and a hint of a grin. You're looking for skilled artisans, right? Would you settle for me? Settle? I repeated, grinning from ear to ear. Kaijin, I'd be thrilled to have you on board. And just like that, things escalated again. Kaijin punched Vesta a second time, sending him flying into the side wall. The remaining patrons, especially the elf dancers, watched in shock as Vesta scrambled out, beaten and humiliated. Remember this, Vesta snarled as he limped away. This isn't over. Yeah, cry harder. The party mood had shifted, obviously. I knew this wasn't the end of it. I turned to Kaijin and asked quietly, are you sure that was wise? Vesta's not just some guy. Hurting a minister could get you executed. At the very least, exile. Kaijin didn't even flinch. If I didn't stand up to him, I'd shame the king. And besides, didn't you already offer me a second chance? He said it so casually, like it was just a fun little punch-out. We exchanged knowing grins. We spent the rest of the night enjoying the elves' company, even as the storm clouds gathered behind us. By morning, reality came knocking. Bang bang bang. The door slammed open, and there stood Kaido. His expression was half disbelief, half full-on despair. Brother, Mr. Rimuru, what the hell have you two done? As expected, punching a minister wasn't something one could walk away from, and just like that, barely into my restart of this timeline, I was back in prison. Again. Chapter 7. The day Dwargon trembled. We were standing in the royal court of Dwargon, wrists bound, waiting to be judged like common criminals. The charge? Assaulting a minister. Yeah, not a great look. Apparently, the case was so high profile that King Gazel Dwargo himself had decided to oversee it. Not intimidating at all, right? The great king made his entrance soon after, taking his place on a towering throne that just screamed, I'm important. His gaze swept the room, sharp and cold, eventually landing on us. I could already tell this guy wasn't the type to joke around. The cuffs binding us weren't your everyday iron chains either. Nope, these things were reinforced enough that even Shizu-san, an actual hero, would probably struggle to break free. And of course, they had to be anti-magic too. No tricks, no skills, just pure humiliation. You are now on trial, accused of treason and hostility toward the Dwargon kingdom, the court jurist declared, voice as grave as a funeral. Your fate will be decided by His Majesty, King Gazel Dwargo. Here we go. Vesta stepped up to give his account. Not him directly, of course. He sent in his personal little puppet, a slick lawyer oozing fake confidence. In the presence of the king, state your version of events, the jurist ordered. The lawyer cleared his throat and spun a tale so dramatic it could have won an award. According to him, Vesta had innocently dropped by the elf shop, just to observe, when Kaijin suddenly attacked him out of nowhere. Oh, the horror. That's a bold-faced lie. CL's voice echoed in my mind. Yep, my thoughts exactly. The story was garbage, anyone who was there could prove it. If King Gazel just asked Mama-san, the elf club's manager, Vesta's whole lie would collapse like a wet paper house. But no, that wasn't happening. Because this wasn't just a trial. It was a game, a rigged one, and worst of all, we didn't even have a lawyer. Kaijin, the poor guy, just stood there silently, shoulders tight. Was it pressure, fear, or something deeper, like the Albline paradox, that weird social-political power struggle everyone whispered about? Either way, Kaijin wouldn't speak. They'd turned this into a spectacle, a test to see whether Vesta had messed up enough to lose his post. And we were just the chess pieces. Ridiculous. And the timing? Far too convenient. I mean, with rumors flying that Vesta was sabotaging Kaijin, and then bam, here they were, dragged into court? Anyone with a brain would see through it. I glanced at King Gazel. He had to see it, right? Still, if we didn't speak up, if we didn't push back, the king would have no choice but to accept Vesta's version. And I wasn't going to let that happen. Crack. The sudden sound of breaking metal echoed through the room. Oops, was that really necessary? Seal, these cuffs were annoying me. I had casually shattered the legendary restraints. You know, the ones even Shizu might have struggled with. The whole room turned. Guards, officials, everyone now had a reason to hate me more than they already did. How dare you to break cuffs like that in the presence of the king? Commanding, and glowing with his own hero haki. He clashed his energy against mine, and the result? A thunderous pressure storm engulfed the courtroom. Almost everyone fainted on the spot. Some looked half dead. Kaijin and his brothers? Don't worry, I'd already wrapped them in a multidimensional barrier. Safety first. Through the haze of fading auras and collapsed bodies, King Gazel stared at me, eyes sharp as blades. What is your name? He asked, voice like thunder in a storm. I met his gaze. Calm, firm, Rimuru Tempest. The courtroom, well, It barely held together. Honestly, it was a miracle the place wasn't just a crater with how violently our hockey clashed. The marble tiles were cracked, windows shattered, pillars trembling. A couple guards looked like they saw their ancestors waving. Yeah, not my fault, probably. Even King Gazel looked rattled. His iron expression cracked for just a second. He definitely hadn't expected that. But hey, to his credit, the guy didn't waver. That's why he's the king of Dwargon, right? His pride was his people's backbone. He couldn't afford to flinch. So instead, he straightened himself and addressed me directly. And to everyone's shock, he bowed his head. Bowed. To me. I apologize for my minister's folly, he said. Is there anything I can do to help you forget all this nonsense? That was unexpected. The room froze. Vesta looked like he was about to faint. The rest of the ministers? Panic mode activated. He's displaying extreme humility while maintaining his pride. Impressive. Seal sounded surprised. Me too, honestly. Still, this was the perfect moment. How about you start a nice connection with me? I offered smoothly, watching his expression for a reaction. His left eyebrow twitched. Ah, there it is. The, what is this Majin scheming, face. But let's be real, his reaction made sense. I was technically a nobody in his kingdom. A tourist who'd gotten tangled up in his nation's dirty laundry. Still, I couldn't let this chance slip. I could practically hear the collective heart attack from the ministers. Dwargon prided itself on its technology and craftsmanship. Kaijin and his brothers? Yeah, they were VIPs here. Losing them would be a big deal. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Ministers exchanged anxious looks. Some even looked outright offended. My king! Vesta burst out. There is no need to bow your head to such a lowly. Silence. King Gazel's voice cracked like a whip. If all of Dwargon were to fall because of your foolishness, I would never forgive you. Whoa, he meant it too. His tone didn't just shut Vesta up, it made the entire hall go still. The ministers were stunned, probably confused too. They couldn't understand it, but I could. King Gazel and we understood each other without needing to spell it out. This wasn't just about strength. It was about vision. He respected that I wasn't here to cause chaos. I just didn't like being played. Vesta's head lowered. I just wanted to be useful to you, he whispered. Wait, was he crying? Tears dripped down his face, one after another, falling silently onto the polished floor. He's genuinely ashamed. Maybe Vesta wasn't so hopeless after all. King Gazel finally stepped forward, voice calm but firm. Then, as a mark of our diplomatic ties, and compensation for Vesta's misconduct, I will permit Kaijin and his brothers to assist in building your nation. He paused, then turned to Vesta. As for you, Vesta, you will no longer work under me. Whoa, did not see that coming. I gave a respectful bow. Thank you, King Gazel. Then, with your permission, I'll be taking my leave. I turned to Kaijin and the others, who had already snapped out of their shock. Together, we stepped out of the courtroom, leaving behind cracked walls, unconscious soldiers, and one very stunned group of ministers. King Gazel made his gallant leave, cloak fluttering like some kind of RPG final boss, but that story can wait. Later that day, Kaido presented him with the potion he purchased from me. Yes, that potion, but we'll get to that eventually. Now that King Gazel has gotten his hands on my one-of-a-kind, 99% pure Hippocute potion, he's planning a visit to our humble hamlet. Apparently, he's seriously considering mass production. Not that I blame him. It is practically a miracle in a bottle. The light filtering through the vast canopy of the Jura forest was fading fast as evening approached. But before we worry about that, let's focus on what's in front of us. We were standing at Dwargon's main gate. Kaido didn't even bother seeing us off. He was too busy being flooded with paperwork and promotions after introducing the Hippocute potion to the court. Talk about a glow-up. I raised my hand. Ranga, come out. With a swirl of shadows and a gust of wind, Ranga emerged from within me, followed by the other Tempest wolves. The sudden appearance of massive wolves understandably made Kaijin and his brothers take a cautious step back. Whoa there. Kaijin's hand was already halfway to his sword. Relax, I said, raising both hands. They're on our side. This is Ranga, my partner. Loyal, powerful, and very good at fetching. Aren't you, buddy? Ranga wagged his tail proudly. Indeed, my lord. After a bit more explanation, and Ranga putting on his best good boy face, they finally relaxed, though Garm still kept a suspicious eye on the biggest wolf of the bunch. With our pack ready, we started making our way through the forest, heading toward the rendezvous point where Rigger and the advance expedition team had set up camp. It's already been more than 3 days since we arrived in Dwargon. Let me break it down. Day 1, spent in prison. Yay. Day 2, screwed myself over by enjoying the company of beautiful elves. Totally worth it. Day 3, court trial. Intense. Day 4, our glorious departure. Wait a second, am I forgetting something? Seal, if you forgot it, then it probably wasn't important. You're right, Seal, if my supreme analytical partner says so, then, meanwhile, in a lonely prison cell. Gobta, you Hello? Anyone? I'm still tied up here. Back to me. It's been a hectic trip, but let me present our spoils of war. Ahem. I gestured grandly toward my entourage, as if I were showing off trophies. Dwargon's most prominent smith, Kaijin the Garm brothers' finest clothing seamster, Garm their most talented craftsman, Dord their construction engineering prodigy, Murd, and did I mention Kaijin again? Because yes, he's that good. With this lineup, I've basically recruited an elite dwarven squad to help build up Tempest. Now, I said with a grin, let's go home. And with that, we set off, back to the forest, back to the village, and back to whatever chaos awaited us next. Gazel's POV. I am grateful that the Majin chose to pardon the reckless actions of my misguided minister. No matter how skilled a man may be, absolute strength is a terrifying thing. Someone who possesses such power could take countless lives with a mere snap of their fingers. It's far more dreadful than even the most catastrophic nuclear-grade magic cast by royal court magicians. Those, at least, require elaborate procedures to activate. But that Majin, no, that being, he is no ordinary entity. I'm convinced he is an awakened demon lord. This world is no stranger to demon lords. There exists a governing body among them known as the 10 Great Demon Lords. And even within that fearsome circle, 2 stand above the rest: Guy Crimson, the Lord of Darkness. Milam Nava, the Destroyer. These 2 are the most dreaded demon lords, at least according to public knowledge. And yet, that Majin named Rimuru, though only partially awakened, holds a pressure that brushes shoulders with theirs. If he were to declare himself a demon lord, what would happen then? The existing lords would not take it lightly. They do not tolerate upstarts, especially not ones who dare to use the title in vain. Dwargon has little to fear from lesser demon lords like the Beastmaster or the Marionette Master. But that Rimuru, he's cut from a different cloth. Of course, all this might simply be speculation, intuition honed by years of leading a nation. Still, my instincts scream that this Majin is far from ordinary. For now, I will observe him closely. He may prove to be a formidable enemy, or perhaps, our greatest ally. Chapter 8, Flicker of a Dying Flame. After the chaotic but enlightening trip to Dwargon, I finally returned to the village, with some brand new companions in tow. And by companions, I mean master craftsmen who could single-handedly pull us out of the Stone Age. No offense to Rigard and the goblins, of course. The dwarves wasted no time. The moment they stepped into the village, they were already barking orders, sketching designs, and arguing over structural integrity like we were halfway through building a castle. Kaijin, ever the professional, immediately took charge of weapon development. The goblins practically sparkled with excitement at the thought of wielding actual, deadly weapons. No more clubs made out of tree branches and wishful thinking. Meanwhile, Garm was appointed as the head of clothing production. Thank goodness, the goblinas finally got proper outfits, ones that didn't look like they'd been stitched together by blind cave bats. Garm's skills were almost divine. He took one look at a goblina, ran some fabric through his fingers, and voila, instant fashion. He even added subtle flair to the uniforms. How did we live without this man? Then there's Dord, quiet, methodical, and obsessed with aesthetic weapon design. If Kaijin forged the blade, Dord made it beautiful. I always thought cool-looking weapons were just for show, but morale actually went up when the goblin riders started wielding swords that shimmered under sunlight. Even Gobta looked like a semi-capable warrior. Almost. Seal. Appearance affects confidence. Confidence increases performance. A well-designed weapon is a multiplier, even if not numerically quantifiable. Thanks, Seal. So basically, fancy swords equals happy soldiers. But the real surprise? Murd. That guy's a literal prodigy. He took one look at our scattered huts and said, You call this a village? Rude, but fair. Then he whipped out a blueprint that could rival major city plans, and suddenly we were talking irrigation, zoning districts, paved roads, and even sanitation systems. The man is terrifyingly efficient. Seal. He reminds me of myself. Highly intelligent, purpose-driven, mildly condescending. So, you like him? Seal. Affirmative. Noted. Since then, every day's been an uphill climb. Apparently, fame spreads fast when you're a slime who doesn't act like one. Monsters keep showing up asking to join the village. No, the nation seeking protection and work. And because I'm soft-hearted, or just too lazy to turn them away, I keep naming them. It's not as easy as it sounds, by the way. Naming costs magicules. A lot of them. I'm basically a living mana fountain with a people-pleasing problem. Once named, I pass them on to Rigurd, who's developed quite the knack for administrative work. Honestly, I should put him in a suit. Maybe Garm can design a Prime Minister of Tempest uniform or something. I even tagged along with the hunting team once, mostly to see if Gobta was still alive. Turns out he's thriving. The Goblin Riders were overjoyed, probably nation-seeking because they finally had real blades that could actually cut things. Decapitation, as grim as it sounds, is a lot cleaner than clubbing monsters to death. Efficiency matters. Meanwhile, the construction team's been pounding away, literally, with their new dwarven forged hammers and tools. They've been laying solid foundations like pros. At this rate, we might actually have buildings that don't collapse when you sneeze near them. The farming team's doing surprisingly well, too. The dwarves taught them proper crop rotation techniques, and even though we're not exactly growing a buffet yet, the efficiency has skyrocketed. Harvest times are faster, and food quality's gone up. We might need to start looking into actual cuisines soon. Gobta's already trying to fry random things. We need a chef before we lose someone to experimental goblin cooking. And just as things were starting to settle down, another wave of goblins arrived. About 400 of them migrated from nearby villages. I recognized a lot of them from the previous timeline. They'd helped run Tempest's government. Seeing them again stirred something nostalgic, and a little sad. But not this time. This time, we're doing things right. A few elders and seasoned warriors among them evolved into goblin lords after receiving names from me. The process drained me, but it was worth it. These guys aren't just muscle. They've got brains too. They've started assisting Rigurd with ministerial duties and managing various departments: law, defense, infrastructure, the works. I might have just accidentally formed a government. Huh. Seal. Correction. You are forming a nation-state. Semantics. At least now I don't have to micromanage everything. I assigned the newly named goblins to their appropriate sections: defense, agriculture, construction, and logistics. The village. No, Tempest is evolving. Rapidly. And for once, I'm not panicking. Yet. 2 months later, alright, I'll let you guys rest for 3 days. After that, I need you to head back to the forest. Why are you still here? Get out, now! Those words, those cursed words from the guildmaster haunted their dreams and now echoed endlessly in their ears like an unwanted bard song on repeat. What the hell is that old man thinking? Guido whined, throwing his hands into the air. 3 days? We need more rest than that. Caval groaned, limping along with a visible bruise on his jaw. We just got back from the Great Jura forest, and now he's sending us back again? Guido continued, loud enough to startle a nearby fruit merchant. They were standing, well, dragging themselves, through the crowded streets of Blumund, looking like they'd been run over by a rampaging ogre. Twice, a few curious onlookers paused, eyebrows raised, clearly entertained by the melodramatic meltdown happening in the middle of the road. I want a bath, Ellen suddenly screamed, her voice cracking as she collapsed to her knees. I don't want to go back to the Great Jura forest anymore. Caval, ever the face of the party, sighed and turned around to look at them. I hope you had the guts to say all that to the guildmaster's face. Quote. He scares me, Guido mumbled. No kidding, Ellen added, still on the ground. They looked like a band of failed gladiators after a rigged tournament. Scratched armor, dirt-streaked faces, and exhaustion in every limb. It wasn't exactly the return to civilization they'd been dreaming of. That's when it happened. A voice, soft but clear-cut, cut through their grumbling. I heard you're going to the Great Jura forest. Can I tag along? They turned around. A girl stood there. Strange. No, unnerving might be the better word. Her presence was quiet but intense. She wore a mysterious-looking mask that covered most of her face. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. Guido leaned in toward Caval and whispered, "Is she one of those types?" Caval didn't answer. He was still trying to figure out if they were being pranked. But before either of them could form a response, Ellen, of course, jumped in. "Sure, we don't mind," she chirped like they weren't minutes away from mental collapse. Caval stared at her. Guido gave her a "you have got to be kidding me" look. "Then let's meet here in 3 days," the masked girl said. "What's your name?" Caval finally asked. There was a pause. Then a single word. "Shizu." Ellen immediately beamed. "Nice to meet you, Shizu-san. I'm Ellen, and these are my friends, Caval," he muttered. "Guido." The other sighed. Shizu quietly bowed. There was no excitement in her voice, no wide smile like Ellen's, and no sarcasm like Guido's. Just a calm, polite, almost robotic composure. And then, because Ellen had no concept of personal space, she clung to Shizu's arm like they were old academy roommates. "I'm so glad to have another girl in the party. You have no idea." Caval quickly stepped in and peeled her off. "Milady, are you sure about this?" he whispered. "Why not?" Ellen replied cheerfully. "I'm tired of being the only one who doesn't smell like unwashed leather." "That's hurtful," Guido mumbled. Shizu just glanced at them with those emotionless eyes, then softly said, "Thank you," before turning and walking away without another word. The trio stood there in silence for a few seconds. "Well," Caval finally muttered, "that just happened." "I like her already," Ellen smiled. "I have concerns," Guido grumbled. Even so, none of them could shake the feeling that they'd just stumbled into something big. 3 days later, after long baths, some decent meals, and a lot of back and forth about whether this was a good idea, they found themselves back at the city gate. Shizu was already there, standing quietly with her usual mask and unreadable expression. With Ellen covering the rear, Caval and Guido taking the front, and Shizu as their mysterious new ace, the party set off once more toward the Great Jura forest. Unaware that their lives, and fates, were about to change forever. I've been ridiculously busy every day for the past 2 months. And not the, "oh no, I missed lunch," kind of busy. The, "I haven't had a decent nap and Gobta nearly set the bathhouse on fire," kind of busy. Still, I can't really complain. Tempest has been growing smoothly. With Rigard's leadership and the Goblin Lords I appointed running things on the ground, I don't have to micromanage every brick being laid. Honestly, I should probably just lean back and enjoy the ride. But there's one issue that's been bugging me. The goblins. More specifically, their swordsmanship. Now, don't get me wrong, they've come a long way. They can actually hold their weapons the right way now instead of flailing them like oversized chopsticks. But technique-wise, they're still amateurs. I kind of wish I had Hakuro here right now. That old man was terrifying with a blade, and even scarier as a teacher. He'd whip them into proper warriors in no time. Me? I take pride in my own swordsmanship. I'm no pushover. But teaching others? Especially proper sword arts? Yeah, no. I've tried, and it's like explaining calculus to a rock that's also on fire and asking questions in Gobtanese. Seal. That comparison is inaccurate. Most rocks possess better memory retention than Gobta. Okay, not wrong. While juggling everything, training, monster management, and diplomatic prep, I decided to take a little stroll deeper into the forest. Just to check on some things. And what do I find? Zijin and Apido, like I remembered. They looked peaceful, powerful even in stasis. I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and pride just seeing them safe and sound. I made sure to secure them and keep them in the best magical environment I could create. But that's when things got weird. Because there weren't just 2 insectaries. There were 4, 2 more insectors. One was a sleek, elegant spider queen radiating maternal energy, but also very much a predator. The other was a towering ant warrior with an aura of command, like a knight straight out of a fantasy epic. This wasn't part of the original timeline, I muttered. So naturally, I turned to Seal. What's going on here, Seal? I manipulated the convergence rate of dimensional threads slightly. As a result, 2 additional insectar generals, 1 spider type and 1 ant type, were redirected from the outer realm into this world. Their potential is immense, and it would have been a waste to leave them behind. So, you rigged the system? Seal. No, I improved it. Sure, improved. Still, I wasn't going to waste an opportunity like this. I looked at the ant first. Strong, composed, brimming with loyalty. I'll name you, Beru. Then the spider, who watched me with unwavering eyes and a quiet calm. And you, your name will be Kana. Seal. Acceptable. Both names have strong resonance. As expected, naming them triggered massive evolution. Their bodies shimmered with my magicules, and I infused both with samples of my body cells to accelerate the transformation. What happened next was almost terrifying. Beru immediately kneeled and declared eternal loyalty, his presence alone enough to make nearby magic beasts scatter in fear. Kana gave a respectful bow and wrapped an encroaching serpent monster in silk so fast, it looked like time had frozen. Zijin, Apido, Beru, and Kana. My 4 Insectar generals. Seal. The probability of Tempest's long-term survival has now increased by 23.7%. Excellent decision. Thanks, Seal. Seal. Technically, it was my decision. Whatever helps you sleep at night. With the insectary situation settled and my work done for the day, monster management, training routines, food supply optimization, fire prevention protocols, again, Gobta. I finally had a moment to breathe. Because today was the day. The day I've been waiting for. The arrival of Shizu-san. That familiar ache in my chest, regret, longing, anticipation, all flared up at once. I've waited so long for this. And even though I've gone over a dozen plans in my head, I still don't know exactly how I'll face her. Will she sense something's off? Should I reveal what I know? Will I change her fate? Seal. You're hesitating. Yeah, I know. Seal. This is rare. Your emotional response is elevated. I didn't respond. Instead, I activated multidimensional detect. Like casting a web of magic across space itself, I extended my senses outward, through wind, earth, mana, and will. And there they were, a group of adventurers. West side of the forest. Moving slowly but steadily. 3 auras I didn't care much for, and one I'd recognize anywhere. Calm, controlled, masked, radiating quiet sadness and a gentle strength. Shizu-san. She was here. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. No matter how much I try to stay calm, my heart still skips a beat when I think of her. This time, I'll protect her. No matter what. Let's meet again, Shizu-san. This time, I'll be ready. Idiot trio Pav. This is your fault, Kaval. You poked that giant ant's nest. Shut up. Don't complain about your leader. For a leader, you're way too careless. If I die, I swear I'll come back to haunt you. That's not even possible, because I'd be dying with you. Hee-yah! We ran through the forest, tripping over roots, dodging trees, and screaming like scared kids. Kaval led the charge, of course, but it was his fault we were in this mess to begin with. Behind us, we heard movement, something huge. Shizu-san stopped. Shizu-san! Ellen shouted, panicking. Without a word, she stepped forward, facing the danger head-on. The giant ant clicked its massive jaws as it recognized her as a threat. Then 4 more emerged from the foliage, their legs crunching through leaves and stone alike. There were 5 of them in total. Hey, don't! Kaval yelled, clearly realizing she was about to take them all on alone. The giant ants looked terrifying, huge limbs, sharp enough to pierce even metal armor. One hit from them, and a normal human body wouldn't stand a chance. But Shizu-san didn't falter. The ants charged. She moved. They were fast, but she was faster. With elegant, fluid steps, she dodged their strikes like a leaf in the wind. Her blade erupted in flames, trailing red-hot arcs through the air. One by one, she cut them down, precise and deadly. Her movements were effortless and practiced, a master at work. Flames roared. Bodies dropped. A true veteran warrior. After ensuring each ant was slain, she pierced their bodies again, not letting her guard down for even a second. Monsters were known to regenerate, and she wasn't about to take any chances. Wow! Ellen mumbled in awe. We were just about to catch our breath when, crunch. One of the ant corpses twitched. Its broken limbs pulled together with an unnatural crackling sound. It regenerated. Shizu-san, that one's still. But before I could finish, Shizu-san had already turned, sword raised again. Only, something was wrong. She froze. I could see it, her stance was perfect, but her body wasn't responding. She tried to move, but her limbs trembled. She was at her limit. Shizu-san, we called, helpless. The giant ant hissed and lunged forward. Its sharpened forelimb gleamed, ready to strike. I could see her eyes narrow. She wasn't afraid, but her body refused to budge. "Move, please, move." Her expression remained calm, but I could feel her desperation. The ant closed in. Just one attack, just one move, was all she needed. "Please." Her hand twitched. Then, suddenly, a surge of power. Infernal flame. A burst of fire exploded from her blade, engulfing the ant in a blazing inferno. The air cracked with heat, and when the flames died down, nothing remained but ash. She dropped to one knee, gasping for breath, hand pressed against her chest. We rushed to her side. "Shizu-san, are you all right?" Ellen asked, her voice filled with worry. "I'm fine," she replied, trying to stand, but her body was still shaking. Then, a sound. A deep, low hiss echoed through the trees. I froze. Shizu-san stiffened. We all turned toward the source. A hulking figure emerged, scales glistening like obsidian, eyes glowing faintly with menace. "No way," Ellen whispered. "Hey, that W was ABB Black Serpent." Kaval stammered, his face going pale. The strongest monster in the sealed cave. Aside from the storm dragon itself. A chill ran down their spine. Why was it here? Shizu-san stared at it, expression grim. She couldn't fight anymore. Even she wouldn't survive this in her condition. We all knew it. This monster was in a league far above us. "Ellen, run away," she said softly. But Ellen shook her head. "No way. We will not leave Shizu-san alone." Kaval and I moved into position beside her. "Yeah," Guido nodded. "We'll hold the line," Kaval added. Even though our legs were shaking, we stood our ground. We didn't care about odds. We weren't going to let her fall. She looked at us, a flicker of emotion in her tired eyes, surprise, gratitude. Sadness. She couldn't summon Ifrit, but the moment I released him, Ellen and the others would be caught in the flames. They wouldn't survive. I can't risk it, not when they're still standing for me. Not when they trust me this much. Suddenly, a sharp, agonizing wave of pain surges through my body. "Ah!" I scream, collapsing to my knees as electric shocks race through every nerve. My vision blurs. My limbs won't respond. This is it. I can't fight anymore. I've hit my absolute limit. I'm sorry, everyone, but then, like a divine answer to my silent despair, he appeared. As if materializing from the very air, a figure stepped onto the battlefield. He had silver-black hair tied into a sleek ponytail and golden eyes that shimmered like twin stars. And a smile soft, radiant, filled with a strange kind of hope. He was beautiful, but more than that, what truly struck me was the silence of his presence. I couldn't sense anything from him. Not even a flicker of magicules. But that's not right. He wasn't weak. He was suppressing his power completely. To zero. That's supposed to be impossible. Yet, here he stood, his aura hidden in perfect stillness, as if reality itself bent around him. The smile slowly vanished from his face as his eyes locked onto the black serpent. He took a single step forward. Then, he raised his hand. No words. No flashy spell chants. Just a gesture. The black serpent froze. Its hissing stopped mid-breath. Time seemed to pause. And then it vanished. No explosion. No scorched remains. No sound. Just gone. Erased. As if it had never existed. I stared, speechless. Amazing. I murmured, my voice barely audible through the crackle of fading tension. What kind of person is he? His power completely invisible, yet undeniable in its presence. Even without revealing a fraction of it, I could feel its vastness. No, not sense it in my soul. This man wasn't just strong. He was on an entirely different plane,